Every domino you have ever watched fall started with a single tap. But here is what nobody tells you about domino chains. The last domino, the big one, the one that makes the whole setup worth building, that domino has no idea how many tiles came before it. It does not know if it took 10 or 10,000. It only knows it got touched. And you are living your life like you need to know the count before you start tapping. There is a scene in The Walking Dead that I love. Two lovers get separated in the chaos of the apocalypse. The woman spends what feels like forever searching, and somewhere along the way, she finds a drawing of herself, beneath it a message. Believe a little longer. Not believe for another year, not believe until winter, not believe for a specific measurable duration that you can circle on a calendar, just a little longer. The instruction was never about endurance over time. It was about endurance in a moment, the smallest possible unit of continuation. And I think most of us have been measuring belief completely wrong. David Goggins has run ultramarathons, he has completed SEAL training 3 times, he has done things that would make most human bodies simply refuse to cooperate, and in his writing, he makes an observation that sounds almost too simple to be profound. The decision to quit, he says, without exception, happens in a single second. One moment where the mind presents an exit and asks if you want to take it. It sounds wrong, but what stops most people is not exhaustion. It is a single ordinary second. There are all the seconds where you do not quit, and then there is 1 second where you do. He calls them 1-second decisions, and the entire game, the whole test, is just passing them, one after another, like a turnstile that keeps asking the same question. Still going? Still going? Still going? You do not fail a marathon in mile 20, you fail it in a single second somewhere inside mile 20. The mile is just geography, the second is where the choice lives, and this reframes everything we think we know about persistence. We imagine it as this long, continuous effort, like holding a heavy weight over time, but it is actually a series of micro choices, each one independent, each one a fresh opportunity to either continue or collapse. The dominoes do not fall all at once, they fall 1 tap at a time. You may have heard the old parable about the gold miner. A man digs and digs and digs, day after day, week after week. The work is brutal, the results are invisible, and finally, exhausted and defeated, he quits. He sells his equipment to someone else, walks away, and tries to forget the whole endeavor. The new owner brings in an engineer. The engineer studies the mine and tells him to dig 3 more feet. 3 feet later, they strike gold. 3 feet. After all those months and years of digging, the first miner quit 3 feet away from everything he'd been working toward. Now here is what makes this story more than just a motivational poster. The miner who quit had no way of knowing he was 3 feet away. There was no sign, no progress bar filling up, no notification that said 97% complete. The 3 feet looked exactly like every other 3 feet he had already dug. Dirt, rock, darkness. Nothing to indicate that the next swing would be different from the last 1,000 swings. And that is the brutal architecture of most worthwhile pursuits. The proximity to success is invisible. You could be 3 inches away or 3 miles away, and the view from where you stand looks identical. This is why the 1-second decisions matter so desperately, because you never know which second you are in. Is this second the one before the breakthrough? Is this one? What about this one? You cannot see the gold, you can only see the dirt, and the only thing you control is whether you swing the pickaxe 1 more time. Let me give you a different image. Picture belief as standing in line at a bakery before dawn. The lights are off, the door is locked, people around you begin to leave. They assume no one is coming. You have no proof they are wrong. All you have is the smell of bread that might be imaginary. Staying is not heroic, it just feels slightly foolish. But the line does not test your patience for hours. It tests you every time someone else leaves. A voice in your head starts asking the obvious question. What if no one is coming? It is a reasonable question. Maybe you should just leave. But here is the thing about that voice. It sounds rational. It sounds like wisdom. It presents itself as the mature acknowledgement of reality, but it is actually just a guess wearing a lab coat. The voice does not know. The voice has no information you do not have. It just has a more tired interpretation of that information. And this is how quitting usually arrives. Not as obviously giving up, but as reasonableness, as pragmatism, as the sensible acknowledgement that maybe this is not working. The voice does not say quit. It says be realistic. It says recognize the signs. It says know when to cut your losses. We like to imagine that breakthroughs arrive with trumpets. More often they arrive like an elevator that opens silently. If you step out of the hallway too early, you never hear the ding. What makes this harder is that belief has no storage. You cannot bank it. You cannot believe yesterday and spend it tomorrow. It is always due in the present. The bill comes every morning, and the invoice is always small. Just one more second. There is another problem that emerges when you pursue something for a long time. The challenge stops being whether you can endure the difficulty. It becomes whether you can endure the waiting without changing what you want. After enough months or years of reaching for something, a strange kind of erosion begins. You start to question whether you even want it anymore. Maybe the desire was naive. Maybe you have grown past it. Maybe the more evolved version of you has different priorities now. And some of that might be genuine growth. Sometimes we do outgrow old ambitions, but sometimes, and this is the insidious part, we convince ourselves we do not want something anymore because wanting it has become too painful. The goal does not actually lose its value. It just becomes easier to stop wanting it than to keep wanting it without having it. This is the long-term test. Not just can you keep going, but can you keep wanting to go? Can you protect the original vision from your own defense mechanisms? Can you refuse to let disappointment disguise itself as maturity? The miner who quit probably told himself a story afterward, that mining was never really his calling, that he was happier now, that selling the equipment was the right move, and maybe some part of him even believed it, but that belief was a painkiller, not a truth. It was a story you tell when believing a little longer became too expensive. Here is what makes all of this so difficult. We are wired for timelines. We want to know when. We want to see progress. We want some indication that the effort is converting into outcome at a reasonable rate. But the things we want most, the deep ones, the meaningful ones, they rarely come with timelines. There is no schedule for when the investment will pay off, no calendar date, no milestone marker. The universe does not hand out itineraries for the destinations that matter. The universe seems to demand a tax of uncertainty, so we are left operating in the dark, swinging pickaxes without knowing if we are at inch 1 or inch 99, setting up domino chains without knowing how many tiles the design requires. And in that darkness, all we control is a single recurring choice. Believe a little longer, not a little longer until some date, not a little longer with conditions, just a little longer, one more second of not quitting, one more tap on the domino in front of you. If David Goggins is right, and I think he is, then the entire structure of achievement is simpler than we make it. You do not need to summon years of willpower. You do not need to see the whole path. You do not need confidence about the destination. You just need to pass the current second, and then the next one, and then the one after that. Each second is its own independent test. The seconds you already passed are irrelevant. The seconds coming in the future do not exist yet. There is only ever this one, the turnstile asking its single question. Still going? The math is almost absurdly simple. You only ever need enough belief for right now, 1 second's worth, a little longer, and if you can do that and then do it again and then again, you string together enough micro commitments that you cover whatever distance was required. The miner did not need to believe for the whole dig, he just needed to believe through one more swing. The problem was not that his belief ran out over time, it is that his belief ran out for a single second, and that 1 second was the one that mattered. Back to that scene from The Walking Dead. A woman searching through the apocalypse finds a drawing of herself and a message. Believe a little longer. The man who wrote it could not tell her how much longer. He did not know if she was days away or months away or already too late. He could not give her a timeline because he did not have one. All he could give her was the instruction that matched the actual structure of what she was facing. A little longer, not a specific duration, just the next increment, the smallest possible extension of faith. That is how belief actually seems to work, not as a grand declaration, more like holding a candle steady in a drafty room. The flame never asks for years. It only asks not to be blown out right now. And that message was enough. Not because it contained information about the future, but because it contained the only truth that mattered about the present, that she did not need to commit to forever. She just needed to commit to a little more. Every domino chain ends eventually, but the last domino, the one that matters, does not fall because it knows how many came before it. It falls because it got tapped. and somewhere back at the beginning, someone made a decision that could not see the end. The seconds will keep coming, one after another, each one a fresh turnstile, each one asking the same question you have already answered 1,000 times before. There is no guarantee about the timeline, no promise about how many swings remain before you strike something valuable. There is just the choice in front of you, and sometimes somewhere in the distance you cannot see, there is gold at 3 inches, a final domino waiting to fall. All you have to do is believe a little longer, not a year, not a month, not even a day, just a little longer. Because somewhere, maybe closer than you think, there might be a message written on a wall. But if you quit a single second before you get there, you will never read it. And the only thing standing between where you are and where it is might just be one more tap on the domino in front of you.